plus more stars shine bright in the wind.
If you first saw George Foreman as a pitchman on television hawking his eponymous grill, you might have a hard time believing the affable entrepreneur was once a fearsome presence in the boxing ring. Foreman won an Olympic gold medal and the heavyweight championship of the world, retired to become an ordained minister, then returned to the ring to become the oldest heavyweight champion ever at 45. Foreman did all of that in a uniquely American life. He died Friday in Houston with his family by his side. His family announced his passing on social media, saying a humanitarian, an Olympian, and two-time heavyweight champion of the world, he was deeply respected, a force for good, a man of discipline, conviction, and a protector of his legacy, fighting tirelessly to preserve his good name for his family. We're grateful for the outpouring of love and prayers and kindly ask for privacy as we honor the extraordinary life of a man we were blessed to call our own. For more, let's welcome in boxing commentator Mark Kriegel. Mark, any conversation about George Foreman has to start with the Rumble in the Jungle, 1974 in Zaire against Muhammad Ali. What did that fight do for Ali and Foreman and for boxing?
Well, it crystallized Ali's reputation. It's arguably the most famous fight in the world. It's the ultimate case of the underdog and the bully. You know, people thought that Ali was over. And you remember, this is a guy in Foreman who had knocked Joe Frazier, as tough a guy as there ever was, down 6 times. And Ali's improvisational brilliance was never more evident than it was that night in Zaire. On the other end of it, it just about broke George Foreman psychiatrically. And the one thing you couldn't have envisioned in that moment after Zaire was a comeback of the magnitude that Foreman was able to pull off.
Yep.
It's important, if you look at Foreman historically, he is the scary guy. He was the bad kid. Maybe boxing helped him, but he's somewhere between Sonny Liston and Mike Tyson. What he did, though, different than anyone else ever, maybe in the history of any sport, was reinvent himself. And it wasn't just as a preacher and a grill salesman. What he did as an athlete isn't recognized enough. I was there that night when he pulled off that comeback against Michael Moore, and it was extraordinary. It's without precedent, and I don't think it'll ever be duplicated. Almost 46 years old.
Yeah, almost 46 years old. And for most of that night, it looked like, what is he doing in the ring against Michael Moore? And then with a 2-punch combination, he makes history.
You know, he had fought 17 months prior and lost to Tommy Morrison. You know, Michael Moore was a formidable champion. He was a southpaw. He had a great right jab, and he worked over Foreman for 9.5 rounds. And then what you see is Foreman reaches out, slaps him with that hook, and then the right hand travels maybe that far and puts him right out. And he was very purposeful in what he did that night, and it was his own sort of improvisational brilliance. It was his own sort of rope-a-dope. I'm going to take what you can give me until I turn it around. And yet Angelo Dundee, Ali's trainer in his corner that night, very, very purposefully. I remember thinking, I'm riding one way, you know, it's a shutout by Moore, and all of a sudden I look up, and this thing happens. I've never seen anything like it before, since, and I don't think I'll ever see anything like it ever.
And then, Mark, someone comes up with the idea that once the most feared man in boxing can somehow move cooking appliances, and the George Foreman grill goes on to sell more than 100 million units, adding a whole other dimension to his life and his legacy.
Right. A happy boxing story, that in itself is an anomaly. But it's also a measure of how he reinvented himself. You know, boxers are not there to make happy stories, much less make themselves loved in that kind of way. He wasn't just a fat man anymore. He stood for something. He stood for, you know, hey, you're not finished. And what he did, again, athletically, to me, it's the finest thing any athlete in any sport can do. He defied time.
I'll let that be the last word, Mark. We appreciate your input.
Thanks, Steve.
Another former heavyweight champion, Mike Tyson, paid tribute to Foreman on social media, saying condolences to George Foreman's family. His contribution to boxing and beyond will never be forgotten. George Foreman was 76 years old.
Rest in peace, George Foreman. This is Walter Atkinson Jr. about to get the heck away from my YouTube channel. So peace out and have a good day.